Good evening. Welcome to the Pop Balls, Cameras, and Cars pregame show here on Wildcat Football. I'm Cary Meitzler along with head coach Seth Smith. We'll go back and break down last week's game and talk about the challenge ahead this week. Coach, heart-wrenching is the first word that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, man, look, I don't want to be like the boy that cried wolf. The day's coming where we're going to be able to sit here with you and we're going to talk about, hey, we're 5-0, we're 6-0. It's coming. And I know people are probably tired of hearing me say it's coming. But we're getting so close, you know. I thought Itawamba game, we laid an offensive egg. All right, Gulf Coast game, we laid a defensive egg. We fought. You know, you don't ever want to lose. Losing is miserable. But you can at least walk off with some dignity when your kids fight to the very end. And I thought our kids fought to the very end against a very, very good Co-Lin team.
Before we talk about that game, I want to go back to this. Parity in this league. We've talked about it. Everybody's got players. Last week, the scores, the results, evident of that.
No question. You know, you're sick that, you know, basically it came down to the last play of the game for the most part. Came down to the last play of the game to try to get a chance to go in overtime. We don't hit it. Credit to them. They've got a really good defense. But you come back in, you look at scores, and you realize, hey, we still got hope, man. We got hope. Hines beats Jones, and then East Central beats the Gulf Coast. So it was the initial gut wrench of losing and thinking you're out of the playoff race was hard because that's what you work to get to is get in the playoffs. That's why we came here. Get in the playoffs with a chance to compete for championships. So when you saw that, yet there was almost, you know, if you can get renewed after a loss, it was almost renewing a little bit to realize, hey, we still got a pulse these last 3 weeks.
This game was a back-and-forth game, as you said, came down to the last play for us offensively. But let's talk about Ian Gonzalez-Rios. First start for him, young man. Has played well for you previous games. Career night for him.
Man, I know I told you 2 weeks ago about bend-off and body and everything we talk about, but when your quarterback checks all those boxes, he's tough, mentally and physically. He's got a great attitude. He's really like the Energizer Bunny, man. His kid just keeps going and going and going, and everybody feeds off of him around him. He's a special kid and a talented football player.
I had a chance, Coach, to speak with his folks. They were in town for the game after the game, and you can tell after just spending about 5 minutes with them why he's the way he is.
Yeah, and look, you know, credit his parents. I don't know him very well, but I know enough that they raised a fantastic young man. At 5:15 every morning, he's in this field house by himself working on his own. So he's a kid who loves it. You know, he's engrossed in it. He wants to be great. But more than anything, from my standpoint, you know, our coaches do the coaching. I'm just kind of like the CEO, so to speak, the overseer. But one thing I talk about all the time is starting the game and finishing the game with great effort, and your attitude and your body language better not drop. And he is the epitome of staying up at a high level throughout the game.
I said back and forth game, you know, this is a game here where, you know, there were a lot of twists and turns in this game. I go back to a couple plays in this game. We can talk about the ending of this game, but, boy, we had them on the ropes there. The drive they scored, and we get the unfortunate penalty with the face mask. We've had that happen to us before. Other teams have that happen. That's just a fact of football. But, man, one play, when you go back and you can watch one play just spin a game momentum-wise just so fast.
But, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. To me, the difference of that game, in my opinion, because, you know, football, any sport's about momentum. And speaking of momentum, kudos to our coaches and our fans. We had so many of our athletes and students that were at this game. The atmosphere was through the roof. Mm-hmm. I mean, the atmosphere was phenomenal. So thank you guys for coming out, and thank you to our coaches for having their kids come out. But I thought that the key was when they muffed the punt. We came away with nothing.
Well, I was going to go back.
When we muffed the punt, you got to get something out of that.
Yeah, 2 empty possessions hurt us.
Yeah.
When you have empty possessions this league, it'll come back to bite you.
And it did.
Let's talk about that last drive. He held the ball over 6 minutes. Ian did a great job. 14 plays, get down there. He scrambled around. We throw the touchdown. It was a good call. Unfortunately, we had a lineman who drifted downfield away from the football. We come back, and we have the play at the end there where he crosses line of scrimmage. I'm just going to say this. I'll throw it out there. I'm honest. After watching the film, to me, looked like an obvious targeting call on the hit against him to end the game.
Yeah, that was why I pulled a hamstring with my 18-inch vertical right there, because these kids work so hard, man, and you're asking them to fight on the field. Well, I'm going to fight for them. You know, does it change the game? No, I mean, does it guarantee you a win? It don't. But that was an egregious no call, in my opinion. That's not why we lost the game. We lost the game because we didn't make enough plays. But in an era where player safety is at the forefront, to me, that's got to be called. And to your point, the play before we had the lineman downfield, we score. You're 100% right. We were downfield, but I'm taking up for the lineman. It was an RPO, so all he knows is run.
Right.
Well, Ian winds up throwing the slant, but he held it too long.
Let's go back and talk about Ian's performance. Set a record. I mean, for him, of course, but also record in regard of Pearl River history here. I think, I look at his performance, the job he does when he gets an open field, and I'm going to credit this. I think him growing up a soccer player probably helped him. His footwork's amazing, the cuts he makes.
Yeah, look, he's got a ton of God-given ability, but he exemplifies what it looks like when you have this God-given ability and you work to polish it up. You can become great. His stuff shines because he works at it and because it just comes so natural. And some of that could be, like you said, from when he was a kid, always working footwork drills or kicking a soccer ball. I don't know a lot about soccer, but there's no question it helps your agility and your feet.
My knowledge of soccer, and I've learned a lot about lately watching Pearl River, but before that was Pele was good.
Yeah, he was good. He sure was. Now Messi is really good.
He's good, too. I've watched him, too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about where we stand in the league right here. After that ball game the other night, I thought about this, and you kind of touched on this, but I don't think that we can appreciate how a good job you've done with this ball club. And I mean that sincerely. The progress I've seen from a year ago to where you are today, Boykin coming in. Of course, the offense, passing-wise, hasn't taken off just yet. But, man, the run game. If anyone would have told me we were going to run the football like we did this year, and like we did against Colin, they were giving up, 30-something yards a game?
37 yards a game.
Yeah, and you rushed for, right at 3. I mean, if someone would have told you that before the game, you would have probably believed it. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't have believed it. I told you I think we need to rush for a minimum of 100 to have a chance.
Yeah.
And man, your offensive line and also the play calling and, of course, decisions by the quarterback play into that. But this offense, man, once this passing game starts clicking, it's going to be something special.
Well, I really do. I think it's got a chance to be, and I don't want to get on here and be silly and be emotional. I'm just going to be honest with you for about 20 seconds. In 2022, so that was our second full year. Anywhere else I'd ever been, and look, I was new to this college stuff, but anywhere I've been prior, it took about 2.5 years for it to ascend. Well, in our second full year, we were 6-3. It's the best record in 12 years. I'm like, all right, I think we're getting there. And then last year happened, where you go 1-8. It was the most embarrassing professional year of my career, and I knew it was my fault. I knew offensively we had a broken system, but I knew that was the one part of this whole thing. Our culture was in place, our defense was in place. Let's fix that piece and let's watch this thing take off. And we're not there yet. We're not there yet, but if we can keep rushing for 300 a game, and like Coach Boykin said, we've got to get to the 200-yard marker. When we can throw for 200 and get to 500 yards a game, that's when you can come away and we can be sitting here talking about being 6-0. It's getting close. It's coming. It's coming.
Talk about a couple of defensive performances the other night for your ball club. Jerry scored. I told you this a long time back. I think 14 might be the hardest hitter I've seen in the secondary on this ball club. And not taking anything away from some great ones who played here since you've been here, but he will come up and stick it to you. And
yeah.
He's not afraid to hit. And of course, Trace Carter had a good solid game for you the other night as well.
Yeah, both of those guys did. The one thing, again, being honest, Gulf Coast game was an embarrassment. And it was an embarrassment not because we lost, but we didn't play to our standard. You can't ever play to the scoreboard. You got to play to your standard. And that means, like I tell them, your body language better be great because body language reflects attitude, and your attitude reflects effort. And we just didn't play hard the way we always play against Gulf Coast, but we did against Colin. And that's why you're talking about some of these defensive guys like Jadarius and Trace. They both had a really good game.
Really good game. Let's talk about East Mississippi. Everybody knows what they've done in the past. Every year's different. They get off to a slow start. Last couple of weeks, they sound like they found their groove on offense. They've got a really good quarterback and 2 really good running backs, a couple good receivers. They got a very challenging offensive unit.
They're good. It's like I told our kids, last chance you is coming to town. I mean, hey, and we term this one Jack Boy Week.
Mm-hmm.
Coach does a great job with his group. They're quote unquote the Jack Boys. So
right.
This is their game. They're going to put all the pressure because this quarterback, if you give him time, he's excellent. This young man he's an elite football player, and if he's able to just sit back there and throw it, it's tough. So I'm excited because I truly believe I believe in Coach Sims. I believe in our secondary, but this game right here will be won or lost based off how well our secondary plays.
The weather has turned off rather nice.
Is it beautiful?
It's nice.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine. You know, he calls it FBFW, Fat Boy Football Weather.
Well, it is that, and it is beautiful weather. Yes.
Looking at your ball club, you know, in this last couple of weeks here, you still got a chance to get in those playoffs, you know. But I think the real key, and you kind of touched on this, you can't look at the scoreboard. You got to look at what you've got to do. What's the message away from on the field getting ready? What's the message you're giving these guys right now?
Have fun and finish. Like I'm telling you, since June 2nd, we worked super hard. So you try to remind them. Again, we're not going to be front runners, meaning we're happy after we beat Northwest and then we drop and hang our heads after Itawamba. To win consistently, you got to be consistent. You know, and it's just reminding them, listen to me, when you're getting close to the finish line, you can't stop. You got to keep going. And the reality is we're in week 7 and we still have a chance.
Yeah.
If the season would have started and you said you're going to go to week 7 with a chance, I'd have grabbed it and took it. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, you know, you don't want to be 3-3. You'd love to be 6-0. But we're 3-3 with a chance these last 3 weeks to still get in the playoffs. And just remind them of that, letting them know that the hope that's in front of them. Don't be tight. Just go play and go take it.
Coach, I always appreciate your time, your insight, and most of all, your honesty. And hope we get a win against East Mississippi and then go and take care of business those last 2 South Division games and see where the old chips roll out.
Well, I appreciate it, Mr. Cary, and go Wildcats.
Go Wildcats. We'll take a break here on the Pop Balls, Cameras, and Cars pregame show. Be back right after this.